Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Friday, the 5th of July. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined by Chris Jack to round off the week. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. Another week almost ticked off. Another couple of days closer to Rangers finally returning to action, kicking footballs again, which will be much appreciated. So, my last show of the week. I think I'll be on early next week and then heading out to Holland on Tuesday for the training camp, which we'll obviously have full coverage of and interviews with the main players, hopefully something with the manager, and also coverage of any matches as well. So looking forward to that. And I think that will bring people a wee bit step closer to this campaign actually starting.
Yeah, that'll be a good trip. And as Chris says, folks will have plenty of coverage coming your way from Holland, both on the website and on the YouTube channel as well. Just before we dive into the Rangers news, not much, it's fair to say, but there's still stuff to talk about. Just a quick word for the podcast sponsors, MPH Boilers. They're an award-winning family-run business serving all of mainland Scotland, bringing the best in boiler installations and servicing. So if your boiler is on the blink, folks, then these are the guys to call. The all-important link, as ever, is in the description below. Right, we'll kick off with Danilo because he gave an interview to Rangers TV yesterday, his first interview since returning to the squad after his knee injury. I'll read you some of the key points, what he had to say. He was asked, how has it been for you so far? It's been great, actually. The last few months have been really costly for me, but now being back with the team, all the hard work in the gym and outside, it's been paying off. I'm still going. It's amazing just to be with the boys. He was quizzed on what his rehab has been like. It's been crazy, to be honest. I look back and every time there are things I wish I could do that at the moment I could not do. It was hard. I think those moments make me even stronger. It's been difficult to what I was used to every day and every week. So different when I was with the boys for those couple of days. And everyone was really relaxed with me and really patient. If there were some things that I didn't do good, they all gave me really good confidence, and it's been great. And he was asked, it must feel good to come in for pre-season. Yeah, 100%. Also, last year I didn't have the opportunity to have all the pre-season with the boys. I arrived a little bit later. I think now it's good to be started for pre-season and get that click again and connections. And he became a father as well during his rehab. He says, I spoke with everyone at some point. It was always looking at the positive things when I had my knee, but then my daughter was about to be born, and it was like, wow, I didn't want to be in this situation when she was coming into the world. I was working really hard for that, so that when she was born, I was really good to carry her and then walk. She gave me so much strength to get through those hard moments. She is the light of the darkness for me. That is the words I would say. And he was asked about Jefte, of course, fellow Brazilian coming into the club. Says it's been really, so far, really good. He's from the different side of Sao Paulo. It's funny that we both speak a little bit different, but we both understand each other. It's been nice. I have to help him quite a lot as well. That is something for my part to be responsible for that, to help him feel as comfortable as much as possible and to be part of this really nice group. I think later he's going to get used to the English. He's a really nice boy, and I think he is going to contribute a lot for us and help us a lot as well. So that's some of the answers that Danilo gave to that Rangers TV interview, folks. You can read it in full over on the Rangers Review website. Good to have him back. The old cliche, Chris, like a new signing, and playing his part as well in integrating Jefte into the side. I've got to say, last season, for me, prior to his injury, he popped up with some vital moments. So I'll remember the winner against Hearts at Ibrox that sent the place bananas, and he came up with some good goals. That aside, though, there was some notable misses as well. So I think just wipe the slate clean. Let's see what he can do this season.
I think it's a really hard one to judge this season because, as you say, there were those moments last time we thought there's something here. It didn't strike immediately as a £6 million forward. It didn't look as if he was going to immediately come on and repay that fee. But I think there were moments in there we thought, no, there's something here. There's something that Rangers could work with, something that Rangers could get something out of. There were other moments, I think, as you mentioned there, I missed the European game early on, also stands out. And I think it's hard to be too critical of him because the facial injury that he sustained during that game up at McDermott Park, that interrupt him. I thought he actually started that game well, scored a fine header, if I recall correctly, and then also got that injury, and that put him out for several weeks. He's then coming back and having to play with a mask. It takes him, for a player that's coming into a new country and a new squad, to have that setback at that stage couldn't have been easy. Of course, you then get to Tynecastle and the whole thing, the whole season's ended in really unfortunate circumstances. I think he was definitely a miss over the rest of the campaign. The Rangers also had to put a lot of faith in Cyril Dessers after that. Had to go and bring Fabio Silva in, didn't quite work. He then get moved out of a position to cover for other injuries in the squad. So safe to say we've not seen the best of Danilo in a Rangers jersey. I think we have to be patient with him this season, or we have to remember that he has been out for such a long time. It will take him time to find that sharpness to get back up to full speed. But I think there's definitely something there. There's definitely qualities there that should fit into this Clermont side. Is he going to start the first 10 games of the season? I would highly doubt it. No, obviously, I'm sure the subject of Igaman will come up over the next half hour or so on the show. He's also going to come in, a wee bit extra pressure on him perhaps to come in and start well, given the Danilo situation. And you would imagine if Dessers moves on, then there'll be another number 9 coming in as well. So I think it's important that people do have that bit of patience with him. They don't expect too much too early from him. But I think, as we see from a number of the comments coming in, I think the fans, they buy into Danilo. I think they like the way that he plays. Certainly like the way that he speaks. I spoke to him at Edmiston House not long after he signed. Came across really well. And there's definitely something there for Rangers to work with. Just don't get too caught up in the Brazilian centre forward hype. Give him a bit of time, and then we can wait and see what he can actually bring to this side over the course of the campaign.
Yeah, I think he'll be gradually integrated in terms of match minutes and what have you. I'd imagine he'll be playing some part of the pre-season schedule that is coming up. And I'm excited to see him back in a Rangers jersey. He's been hugely unfortunate last season with those 2 injuries that he sustained, match injuries as well. It's just really unfortunate with the facial incident at St Johnstone and the tackle at Hearts, which I know the manager was not too happy with at the time, which basically ruled him out for the rest of the season. So, touch wood, he can steer clear of injuries this coming season. A few comments coming in just off the back of Danilo. Neil with a point says, morning guys, my only concern with Danilo is that he may not be robust for the Scottish League. I wish him all the best. Well, hopefully we'll about to find out. Just on Igaman, we'll touch on him now, Chris. All accounts, he's flying over, last night, reports in Morocco that he was heading over to Glasgow to finalise his move to Rangers. And someone asking, the Moroccan Olympic squad was announced yesterday. Of course, the Paris Olympics taking place at the end of the month and into August. He wasn't part of that squad. Rangers said to have told Morocco that he won't be available for selection. So that is the reason that he won't be playing for Morocco, which is understandable because Rangers have huge Champions League fixtures and, of course, a league campaign to prepare for. So that is the reason for that. Otherwise, he would have been one of the names in that 18-man squad, I think it is, for Morocco. We've touched on him before, Chris. I know a lot of fans are saying, when is he arriving? What's happening here? Rangers drawn this one out. But it's going to happen. Whether it happens today or tomorrow, he's going to be a Rangers player, and he's another one that just adds to the striking options for next season.
It's been quite something watching some of the social media comment on this over the last couple of days. And we also reported several days ago that this one was done and that he will be joining the squad. That's been widely reported both here and obviously in Morocco. But there's this still urge or this still like fear of fans that until they actually see him on Rangers TV and you've got that scarf picture, it's not done. I think it's safe to say if he's posting these farewell messages and he's on the plane, it's just a matter of time. There's also the paperwork that had to get sorted on it as well. He will be a Rangers player, so people don't have to worry about it. But I think it almost sums up the perhaps anxious, nervous state of the Rangers support right now. That they just want the next one. And as soon as that one's done, it'll be moving on to who's next. I say, Igaman, he will join the squad. He should be on the pre-season trip next week. So I'm hoping to get hopefully get a look at him during the Ajax game. I've obviously had a lot about him for the podcast that you've done with from the guys over there. Adam had his scout report on the site as well. So I think going from those reports and going from what we've seen and what we've read, I think he's quite an exciting signing. But we just don't know if he's at the level that Rangers require. Now, we're talking about Champions League qualifiers. We're talking about Old Firm games and big cup games. That's a big step up potentially from the level that he's been operating at in Morocco. But I think, as we've discussed, he looks an exciting profile. If he can make that step up, Rangers could have won a watch. But I say let's not hype him up too much or knock him down too much before he's actually put pen to paper. But as you say, we are expecting that one. It is just a case of Rangers going through the various pictures and interviews and social media stuff and all the things that the clubs have to do these days before they announce something. So that's a case of waiting in the club doing their bit, and then that one will be announced. But I think there'll be a sigh of relief amongst a number of fans once this one's done. But I say they don't have to worry about it.
Yep, just on the issue of signings and waiting on them, John with a valid point here. He says, I remember Mo Johnston wearing a Celtic top at Parkhead a week before he walked into the Blue Room with Souness. Absolutely the greatest transfer of all time, that one. Yeah, absolutely, John. People saying, what's the hold up? He was waiting on a visa being granted. So that was the reason for a bit of the hold up there. So he will be heading over to Glasgow. In fact, he may already be here. As I said, his flight was supposed to be last night. So we do expect that announcement at some point. If it's not today, I'd imagine it'll be over the weekend. So keep your eyes peeled on the Rangers social media accounts and also on the Rangers Review channels as well, folks. A few interesting points that are coming in. I wanted to touch on this because this made me chuckle yesterday, Chris. Or should it? Often folk are criticised for undervaluing Rangers players. Maka gets in touch. He says, "Morning, guys. Just read on the Rangers Review, we can expect 25 to 30 million pounds for Goldson. Has Keith Wyness been on the sauce?" This was a clip yesterday. Keith Wyness, incidentally, folks, former CEO of Aberdeen. He's also been the CEO, I think, of Villa, a couple of clubs down south as well. He says that he expects Connor Goldson to go for not much more than 25 to 30 million pounds, and that Birmingham City will be splashing the cash on him. Listen, if he's valuing Connor Goldson at £30 million, Chris, he should be the club's new CEO.
I don't even know where to start with that. It's one that you flagged up in the group chat yesterday, and an interesting perspective. I think it's probably the kindest way to discuss it. Safe to say that Connor Goldson, if he does leave Rangers, it will not be for 25 to 30 million pounds. I think you can divide that by many factors before you get down to the fee. It's actually, I think Eddie and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago when the Goldson question first came up. For me, it's quite difficult to actually put a price tag on. Not quite as difficult as James Tavernier. You think you can look at other English centre halves of his standing, of his age, of his profile, and you can say 2 million, 3 million or so is maybe where Rangers are. How do you put a price on a right back that scores 20 goals a season and assists in the manner that he does, and as your club captain? I think Tav, if he was to move on, that becomes a very difficult thing to actually put a price tag on. Goldson, I say it will not be anywhere near that. But I did give the Rangers fans a bit of a chuckle yesterday afternoon. I think being kind to Keith, he's maybe just got his numbers mixed up, maybe a bit of brain fog in there. But as some of the comments say, I don't think we'll be having to worry about doing business at that level. Also, if he's going to League One Birmingham, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the League One transfer record is, but I think that may just eclipse it a wee bit.
Listen, in all seriousness, Birmingham have got a fair few quid to spend and expect them to splash the cash this summer. But £30 million for Connor Goldson, although Blazing Blue 72 says 40 million minimum. So that is the asking price, folks. That'll get you around the table, and then we can have a chat about Connor Goldson. But it did make me laugh yesterday, that little snippet. Asked Stevie about Abdallah Sima yesterday, Chris, because of course he said that rumour mill into overdrive yesterday with his the day before with his Instagram post, his highlights reel with the coming more to come soon caption. Graham Morrison with the point, one of the lads, hope the Sima rumours are true. That would be massive. Lift a few Ibrox clouds. I think we've discussed before, it's all dependent on the fee that Brighton are looking for. I know they're not looking for their £8 million back that they originally paid for him. He's going into the final year of his deal. Has to be a deal that works for Rangers, Chris. I know that some supporters are a little apprehensive given that he too was injured for large parts of last season, but good signing for you if it can get over the line.
I think, as you mentioned, it comes down to how much. If you can pick him up for a fee that doesn't take too big a chunk out of the Rangers budget this summer, then by all means, I think he'd be a really good addition. I think we spoke about the wide areas earlier on in the week. He would certainly improve the options in those wide areas. If it comes to £7-8 million, I think you say, well, thanks Abdallah, he did a great job for his last season, but at that level, I don't think Rangers can go back in on Sima. If you can get him for a couple of million less than that, I think there's definitely a deal to be done. Josh had the update on this one about 3-4 weeks ago or so now, maybe. Whilst I said that Brighton were keen to get their manager in, he then also had to assess the squad, then decide the futures of various different players. The manager's now been in, he's had a couple of weeks. If he decides that Sima is not for him and Brighton want to move him on, I think the fact that Abdallah enjoyed his time up here as much last season is definitely a bonus. If it goes to, I think you'd imagine Brighton will go to the market. They're not just going to phone Rangers and say, no, that's your fee. Now they will try and put him out to the market and see what they can get for him. But I think the fact that he did enjoy it as much last season, clearly had that affinity with the fans, clearly enjoyed playing under the manager, had personal success, obviously won the League Cup. The season didn't end as well. We then look at how different could that second half of the campaign have turned out if he had been available for it. Now that blow that he suffered in the AFCON, I was down at Dumbarton that night when the manager had to address it, and you left that game just feeling the worst of what that would mean for Rangers over the rest of the campaign. And as it turned out, it didn't have enough going on in that final third in the games that mattered. So for me, he would be a really good bit of business, but only at the right level.
Yep, there's a question come in from Day in the Life. What would you pay for Sima? I think in the region of £3 to £4 million. I think £4 million would probably be the upper end of what I would be looking to pay for Abdallah Sima. I wouldn't like to pay any more than that. And again, it's whether Rangers can finance the deal. We are still waiting on several players to depart the club, and that will bring in transfer fees as well. This ties in with what DD says here. Are you guys worried about the link players that we seem to be missing out on? Well, that was another point. There was another point I was going to flag out about the departures. Players that seem to be missing out on. Cordoba is the high-profile one, of course. Kadabai joined at Augsburg the other day there. It reported a couple of days ago that talks had stalled between Kenny McLean and Rangers. Of course, caveat that there is still plenty of time in the transfer window for an agreement to be reached. Word reaching is from the Norwich side of things, no official offer or has reached Norwich City at this point in time. He is on a lucrative contract at Carroll Road. He signed a new deal last year. I think Leeds were interested in him last season. So he's got a really good contract down there. And there's a belief, though, if Rangers can match the wages he's on and the length of contract, then I think a deal can be struck. But at this moment in time, they are some way apart with regards to that. But this point from DD, Chris, is it a legitimate concern that fans have that they're missing out on targets? Or is that just the way transfer windows go?
I think that's just the way that transfer windows go, and especially in this social media age and internet age where there's rumours flying around all the time. We spoke about it at the start of the window, how there would be 100 names, and we're easily, rapidly approaching that. I wouldn't be too concerned about it. There's obviously players. You mentioned Cordoba there, and he was over. He had a look at the club. He was at Ibrox for the Kelly game, I think it was, that we reported. That one looked as if it was going to happen. In the end, it didn't. Both parties decided to go their separate ways on that one. The Kabadaya one, again, he was over. Everything looked positive. He then changed his mind and decided to stay in Germany. ultimately there's very little Rangers can do about that. Now, if Cordoba would prefer to sign for Norwich, if Kabadai would prefer to play Bundesliga football rather than Premiership football, there's not very much Rangers can do. It's not a case of we'll just go and throw an extra 10 grand a week at them to make it worth their while. Rangers have to do deals, as we're spoken about. You have to do deals, and you have to do a number of them. When you have to do that many of them, you have to be very, very smart with the budget. And that's not to say you can then just go a wee bit more, because a wee bit more then turns into a lot more. You do that often enough and you end up in a situation that you don't want to be in. So they're clearly working through a list. There's obviously priorities in terms of position as well. Again, I think we spoke at the start of the week about building up the squad as well as the team. The manager referenced last week about adding in experience. I think that will be the next phase of this window. Kenny McLean, as he touched on, he falls into that experience category. If Rangers can get that one over the line, I know there's been a bit of debate about how good a signing he would be. For me, if it makes financial sense for Rangers, I think he'd be a worthwhile addition to the squad. And I say the noises are now that one is very much ticking along, and I say we'll wait and see if Rangers can get that one over the line. In terms of the other ones, so many links. Just because you're linked with a player in South American press or reports in Turkey, as we always say, there's a number of different aspects to a transfer window. So just because Rangers are linked with a player doesn't mean to say that he is the number one target in that area. So I wouldn't be too upset about the fact that Rangers are missing out on players, if that's how you want to phrase it. I think the way to judge this transfer window is not at this stage. It's at the end of it. Wait and see what team is on the pitch. Wait and see what squad the manager has been able to assemble. Wait and see what the board have been able to provide to the manager, and then we can decide if John Bennett has done enough, if Clement has done enough, if Niels Coppen has done enough. And at that stage, we can then decide if Rangers have enough or not to actually go on and have the season that they have to do.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on this. I noticed this on the comments from Dylan. The rumour's true on the Excelsior Moroccan winger Kuhab Driesh. Our good friend that we had on the show a couple of years ago, Rick Elfrick, who covers PSV in great detail, as reported yesterday that he's underwent a medical at PSV, so he's going to join. It looks like he's going to join PSV Eindhoven as opposed to Rangers. Rangers, one of a number of clubs that are said to be interested in him, but he's going to stay in Holland and sign. It looks like for PSV Eindhoven. So there's another one. Listen, there's going to be, I'd imagine there'll be one or two names linked today. It seems a daily occurrence that names that you've probably never heard of in your life being linked with Rangers. They are very active in the market. We all know the areas it needs strengthened in, and there'll be more like the Cordobas and what have you that will just be linked and not materialise, but it's getting the ones in the door that is vitally important. This is an interesting point as well. Have to start shipping the boys out and bringing money in. Everything is slowed down big time. Again, it's I mean, the 5 out of contract players, I don't think there's been anyone else that's moved out, just a couple of young boys on loan. Chris, we touched on it. We were on a show, I think, a couple of days ago, just providing a transfer update. There are clubs interested in Cyril Dessers. We know there's clubs interested in Sam Lammers. But until offers come in, they are still Rangers players. We'd quite like to see some bids start reaching being sent into the Ibrox boardroom office via the fax machine, or however bids are made these days, and start getting players out the door here.
It's going to become a bigger talking point as this window unfolds and as time progresses. I think there's obviously a big focus at the start of it, and rightly so, because there had to be a big focus on players coming in. That was where the club were focusing, and that's where the support were focusing. They wanted to see new guys coming in. They wanted to see fresh faces, and the squad being given a lift and being given a bit of strength and depth in certain areas. As things go on, Rangers do have to move players on. They cannot possibly carry a squad of nearly 40 by the time the manager does his incomings. It's not sustainable in football terms. It's also not sustainable financially as well. So they will have to move players on, but you can only move players on if there are teams that want to sign them, and if those players then choose to leave. I think Stevie touched on this point the other day. When you have players who you have enticed, certain guys within the squad, if you have enticed them from Europe or from England, they're clearly going to be on decent wages. They're not coming up here. They're not coming to Scottish football for buttons.
No.
The problem with having guys on bigger wages, where you then try and sell them back to these markets, do the type of clubs that you could potentially do business with, are they willing to fund those wages? You're then relying on the player saying, well, I'm happy to take a couple of grand a week of a cut because I know I'm going to go and play football. I want to be in a team that's potentially going to challenge for things. I want to be in a side every single week. If the players are happy to sit at Ibrox and take their money and not play, there's very little that you can do about it, and that makes it difficult for Rangers. Spoke to someone about the situation the other day there, and outside Dessers, and also the Todd Cantwell story came out at the same time as we had the Dessers line. There's not a lot of movement in terms of the phone ringing to say, look, we want X, Y, and Z. There's obviously clubs and agents are obviously doing their things, sometimes via Instagram, sometimes just via the phone. But there's obviously over the course of the squad, over the course of the window, a number of these guys will have to move on. The manager will be having these conversations with players to say, I'm sorry, but I'm bringing in someone else in your position. You're not going to get the football that you want. I can't promise you that. It's best if you move on. So hopefully that's something that Rangers can start to kind of really ramp up over these next few weeks, because they need to get the fees in. They also have to be able to recycle the wages, and the wage bill for what has been delivered is fairly the wage bill. When you compare it to a trophy count, doesn't stack up favourably at all. Rangers, they have saved a lot, and you think of the 5 that left, there is money there that can then be reinvested. But if you think of some of the players that could move on, and we all know the names, it's almost a case of there are very few players at Ibrox right now that are not for sale. Everyone has a price, and you think of some of the wages that could be saved and how that could then be reinvested in the squad. It would make a big difference to Rangers if they can shift on some of the guys that are certainly not completely out of favour right now. But I think there's a number of players in the squad that Rangers can improve on, and also before they can do that, they have to get these guys out the door.
Yep, just off the pitch, just caught my eye from Bobby, just on the Ibrox situation. Recorded a video yesterday, folks, just on that, of course, about the prospect of playing at either Hampden or at Murrayfield. It looks like the likely options are on the table. Rangers in discussions with the SFA about playing there. It's going to cost them, I think, according to the Scotsman reported, to resurface the pitch, and they'll need to pay Queen's Park to play at Hampden as well. Bobby Finlay with the point says, is the metal coming from Asia, as I'm a welder and waited 2 weeks for a 40x8 flat bar, Britain short 2, and everyone etc. having problems too. It is, that was why the delay is, waiting for materials being shipped from Asia, Bobby. So it looks like it's a UK-wide issue, but the sooner we can get those materials into the country and up to the Copeland to sort that out, the better. Still no real announcement from the club on this, Chris. Time is marching on, and I said, I think I was on with you the other day, or I think it was on a Q&A, I think, I can't remember, but I said that a lot of supporters travel from far-flung places, and they need to know where Rangers are going to be playing their football for the month of August at least.
They do. I think we're now more than a fortnight on from the club making that announcement that there would be delays to the Copeland work being completed, and also the knock-on effect of that. There's then a week or more on now from the fixtures being announced. Over the next, if you add on another 7 days, you go through another week. I think the fans will look to say, well, that's another milestone reached, if you like. No, they will be looking for a bit of clarity. Clearly, the club have to do something sooner rather than later. No, they have to, but it also has to be the right solution. There's no point in rushing into something just to give them something. It has to be the right one financially. It has to be the right one for the squad and for the manager as well. So there is a lot of moving parts in this one. But again, over the next few days, I think we will see the club actually be in a position to confirm something, to give the supporters that clarity, because they are the ones who are being most inconvenienced out of all of this. Now, the board will have to pick up the tab for it, whatever it costs for moving to Murrayfield or moving to Hampden, whatever it costs for pitches, whatever it costs for VAR, anything else, the board will just have to kind of foot that bill and say, well, it's our problem, we have to fix it. From the manager and players' point of view, ultimately it's a football pitch, it's got goals either end, and the games have to be won regardless of where they're played. It's the fans that you have to feel sorry for. The fans are the ones that are potentially missing out, that paid for season ticket seats, potentially not to be able to sit in them. They're the ones that deserve full clarity. They deserve the full open and honest approach from the club. I say hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
Yep, we'll round off with this, folks. The 6 teams that Rangers could face in the Champions League third round qualifier have been confirmed. The draw takes place on July 22nd. First leg takes place on August 6th or 7th, with the return the following week on August the 13th. Rangers are seeded alongside Slavia Prague, Red Bull Salzburg and Lille. And those teams could face either Union Saint-Gilloise. So I remember we played them a couple of seasons ago. FC 20 are in that list as well. And either the winners of Lugano of Switzerland or Fenerbahce, or the winners of Dynamo Kiev or Partizan Belgrade. Of those teams that Rangers could face, Chris, is there anyone that you would like to face more than others, or prefer to avoid?
I think at this stage it's really tricky. Now, on paper, you think all of those teams are beatable. You think Rangers should have a chance, especially when you look at our record in these type of matches over the last few seasons. It's a really, really impressive record of getting through these qualification ties. But then look at the state of the Rangers squad and say, well, there's guys that are potentially not going to be here. The players that have been brought in, how ready are they? Is this group going to be at Champions League level? So there's a lot of, I think by the time the draw is made in a couple of weeks, and certainly by the time the games come around, I think we'll be in a far more better position to be able to say, look, Rangers should be able to get through this tie. You then look at the playoff round, and that poses a whole different other range of questions. I think that all of those ties on first glance, looking at them on paper, you think all those ties are winnable. But a lot depends on the work that Rangers are able to do over the next couple of weeks before those games come around.
Yeah, give me Fenerbahce and Jose Mourinho. I'm all for that. But one to look forward to, folks. July 22nd for that third qualifying round draw. I think the playoff round draw, does that get drawn at the same time? I'm not entirely sure, but hopefully Rangers can negotiate those two double headers and make it into the revamped Champions League, more for a financial sense more than anything else. I think if I had to choose, I would choose the Europa League over the Champions League every day of the week, but that's not where the finances are, and that's not where the Rangers board want to be. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Chris as ever, and thank you to each and every one of you for tuning into the shows this week. It's much appreciated. Those of you that are extra members on the YouTube channel, I think we'll come back on later on this afternoon for another Q&A show. So I'll pop out the link in the community page if you want to get your questions in. We'll try and get through as many as possible. A 45-minute bumper episode on Monday. So wasn't short of questions, and I imagine today will be the same as well. Lots on the website, as Chris says. There's lots of Igaman stuff on there. There's a Q&A with the Moroccan lads, Moroccan Grinta, very in-depth insight into Hamza. Adam done that scout report as well to check out, so go and find it, folks. And we're just waiting on that announcement with Hamza with the Rangers scarf held aloft. I think we're all at tenterhooks. We just want another new signing to look at and to hear from. But there we go. Just keep your eyes peeled on the social media channels and on the website, folks. Right, if I don't speak to you later on, have a good weekend, and bye for now.